quick note. If you want to understand what really makes people succeed in German and how you can build a language to actually use it, join my free live workshop at bettergerman.info/workshop. If you want to get the attention of the waiter, you would say, Herr Ober bitte. So Herr Ober, assuming it's a man, is Mr. Waiter. It doesn't quite work with women though. If you want to call a female waitress, you would just basically probably raise your hand. I don't know any word that you would call out. Welcome to the Better German podcast. I'm Susi, a German teacher and founder of Better German. This podcast helps you learn German in a simple and clear way, with useful words, clear sentence structures, pronunciation, and real-life topics from daily life and culture. You'll also get tips for learning German and understanding how the language actually works. And when you're ready, we have a free community and courses to support you even more. So, welcome to a new episode of the Better German podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about something very important, about food. Not in general. Basically, the idea is you go to a restaurant or you want to learn talking about restaurants. So we're going to cover some of the words that will be helpful. And I'm also going to give you a few sentences about this. So let's jump into it, okay? All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to say the words in English first and then maybe a few explanations. So a restaurant is very simple. Das Restaurant. So repeat it after me. Ideally the English and the German words or just the German words. So if you're not somewhere where you can speak out loudly, all right, ideally you come back later. But if you can, then say it loudly. By the way, as many times there is a PDF that you can download that goes with this episode. I will, of course, link it in the show notes, but you can also go to bettergerman.info/restaurant and you get it there. Good. So, repeat after me. Restaurant. 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 So, I'm from Austria. In Austria, as you maybe hear, we actually use the French pronunciation for this word. So it's restaurant. Maybe not completely French, but sort of French. I believe Germans would probably say more like restaurant. Restaurant. Good. Next one, coffee shop. Das Café. Das Café. If you look how you write this is C-A-F-E. You write this with a little accent. It's what we say on the E. Because again, this is French. A lot of the food words are French. Honestly, I didn't even realize, I didn't think about it so much. But it actually can make sense. I mean, we're not that far away from France. And France is kind of like an important thing about food. Not an important thing. It's an important country for food. So I guess that's the short explanation. For the longer explanation, we would have to go into history, but I don't want to do that right now. Good. Another word for restaurant, or maybe a very general word for a place where you could eat. So it could be a restaurant, it could be a pub, all sorts of things, basically. You would call it, so this is das Lokal. So it's a place where you can eat. It doesn't have to be a fancy restaurant. It could be a diner, something like that. Das Lokal. Next one, the starter. So something that you could start your meal with. Die Vorspeise. Die Vorspeise. So vor means before or in front of, and Speise is a word for a meal, basically. We don't usually use the word Speise alone very much, or not as much, anywhere near as much as Vorspeise and the other two that are coming next. So the main course is the Hauptspeise. So literally the main meal, die Hauptspeise. And then dessert is die Nachspeise. Nach means after, so the after meal, die Nachspeise. But we can also call it das Dessert. Das Dessert. And now we have a very interesting thing and word. I haven't seen this as much anywhere else than here in Vienna or in other places in Austria. I'm not even sure if they have it quite as much in Germany. But in Austria, I mean, I'm sure not just here, a lot of people go to restaurants or what would be our pubs to have lunch, because most people can't go home and cook lunch. So they go to a restaurant, and what restaurants offer here very often is something that we call a menu or Mittagsmenü. Now, menu sounds very much like menu, and it's not a menu. It's not a written up list of the food items that you get in that restaurant, but it is a fixed price meal, usually consisting of 2 courses. So the most usual version would be a soup and a main course. And very often there is a salad included. So if you're interested in Austrian food, you can find some very good menus in traditional Gasthäuser, like Das Gasthaus. It's a thing I haven't included on the list officially, but anyway, that would be probably what would be our pub, Das Gasthaus, literally a guest house. And this is where you get more traditional food. It's usually also less expensive, and the quality can differ very greatly. But the point is, you only have 1 or 2 of these menus usually. So it's super fast to eat them, and that's why the price is pretty good for them. So this type of fixed price meal, usually for lunch, is called das Menü or das Mittagsmenü. The next one, breakfast buffet in German, is das Frühstücksbuffet. So Americans actually say buffet, which is almost what we say, buffet. So a breakfast buffet is a Frühstücksbuffet. Of course, you could just have the word buffet itself without breakfast at the beginning, and that's just a buffet. Good. Then the actual menu. So this time, I mean basically the list of foods and the prices is die Speisekarte. We have this word Speise again, but we can also just say Karte. So when you're in the restaurant and you're asking for the Karte, people will assume it's die Speisekarte, die Karte. The bill is die Rechnung. A tip is das Trinkgeld. Literally, this is the drinking money. Go figure. I don't know. I guess so the waiters could get drunk. I don't know. Interesting. maybe you have had the thought, maybe I'm not good at German, then I want to assure you that's not the point. That's not the problem. I'm going to show you what is the problem. And how I show you is I have actually put together a workshop. It's a free live workshop on Zoom. And in there, I'm going over what could make you think that. We'll cover what could go wrong, but I'm also going to show you how can it be done right. So go to bettergerman.info/workshop and sign up for the workshop, and I'll see you there. Schnitzel. So I assume that you know what a schnitzel is. Probably you will. But in case you don't, it's a typical food for the German-speaking area. I mean, I'm from Vienna, and the original, of course, is das Wiener Schnitzel, the Viennese Schnitzel. And the original is actually veal, so a young cow, and it has breadcrumbs. It's in a breadcrumb, and it's like baked in hot oil. And that's das Wiener Schnitzel. However, you get it also made out of pork or chicken. These days, of course, there's also vegetarian versions. And there it would be still called Schnitzel, but not Wiener Schnitzel, not Viennese Schnitzel. But technically, they're supposed to be called Schnitzel Wiener Art. They're not always doing that. Anyway, that's das Schnitzel. And then I've included two very Austrian or even Viennese dishes. So the first one is der Kaiserschmarrn. So literally, it's the emperor's casserole or bake. What it is, it's a shredded pancake dessert. By the way, die Palatschinke, that's in Austria. In Germany, in most places, they will call it der Pfannkuchen. And a pancake in Austria is, however, different than what would be an American pancake. An American pancake is not so big, like smaller than a hand, and it's a little bit fluffy. It's like close to half an inch thick. Now, Austrian pancakes are going more towards the direction of French crepes. Now, French crepes are very, very flat and very thin, and Austrian pancakes or German Pfannkuchen are going towards that, but they're not quite as thin. And the Kaiserschmarrn is something that is kind of like a little bit like scrambled eggs. In the video, I'm going to add a picture. It's a little bit like scrambled eggs, except that it has flour in it and less egg. So the pancakes are made from mainly flour, milk, and eggs. And the relation between those is a little different when you make a Kaiserschmarrn, but basically that's what it is. And we traditionally eat it with compote. However, I've never heard the word compote before. I made the list and had to look up a few words. So a compote is fruit that were cooked in sugar water or stewed fruit. So fruit cooked in sugar water doesn't sound like very exciting. It's kind of like a little bit like a jam, but more liquid, I guess. And this one, Kaiserschmarrn, we traditionally eat with Zwetschgenröster. And Zwetschgenröster is a plum compote. It's sort of like a little bit like a plum jam that is a little bit more liquid. And usually there's some alcohol in it as well. So that is a very traditional food here. Now, as I said, literally it means the emperor's Schmarrn. And Schmarrn or Schmarrn is something stupid. If you hear something and you think that this like really doesn't make any sense, that's a Schmarrn. I suppose from the idea that things were scrambled together and somehow something came out that is unintelligible. Good. And the last one of the words is Frittatensuppe. Die Frittatensuppe. So, Suppe is soup. And Frittaten, again, has something to do with pancakes. The translation is actually pancake strip soup. Basically, the pancakes themselves are not sweet, by the way. if we have pancakes, even though we traditionally eat them with a sweet filling, more than a savory filling, I would say, the pancakes themselves are not sweet. What we do, or what people used to do when they made pancakes, if they had any left over, and there's always some left over unless you have many people, because it's very hard to make an exact amount of pancakes, or you just make more because it's fun, we cut them in strips and we put them in the soup, and that's Frittatensuppe. They're put in a clear beef soup. Bone broth, not necessarily bone broth. It's not traditionally cooked as long as you would cook a bone broth now, but basically it's a bone broth. By the way, I don't know, I have to make more research on that, but I was in the US recently and I was trying to eat soup. It tasted like beef soup. Tastes very different than it tastes in Austria. Anyway, so try a Frittatensuppe. If you don't want any other traditional food, try a Frittatensuppe. But you have to go to either a Gasthaus or a really fancy Austrian restaurant. And they will have very good Frittatensuppe there. Good. Now let's look at a few phrases that are very handy if you want to go, or if you go to a restaurant. So if you want to order and you say what you want to have, there's like two phrases that I've included here. So one of them is for I'd like, and then So I'd like a Schnitzel. You would say, ich hätte gerne ein Schnitzel. Or I'd like a Kaiserschmarrn. Ich hätte gerne einen Kaiserschmarrn. So that's ich hätte gerne. Literally, let's look at the words a little bit. So ich is clear. Hätte it's a form of haben actually. Literally, haben means have. And ich hätte is like I would have. And the like is the next word. Gerne. Gerne is not a verb. It's more like an adjective. It's a word that doesn't have a direct translation, but it is a word that expresses that you like something. So, ich hätte gerne means I would like, or I'd like to have. It's probably a closer translation. So, a few examples of what we could say. Ich hätte gerne ein Schnitzel. I would like to have a Schnitzel. Or, ich hätte gerne eine Frittatensuppe. Oder ich hätte gerne die Frittatensuppe. In this case, it doesn't matter if you say eine or die, by the way. So, another way of saying this is just, in English, probably if you would say I'll take. Yeah, I'll take. In German, we just say I take. Ich nehme. Ich nehme das Schnitzel. Ich nehme eine Vorspeise. Of course, you could also say, particularly on this, you could also say you don't. I won't have a dessert. Ich nehme keine Nachspeise. Good. And then the shortest way of saying the bill, please, in German, and it's very proper way of saying that, you could say a longer sentence, but you're totally okay with saying zahlen bitte. It's actually kind of hard to translate literally. Literally, it's probably pay please. But, in German, we have more forms of the verb. So it's not like you pay please. It's like paying please, basically. Paying please. Zahlen bitte. Then if you want to get the attention of the waiter, I'm not sure if you would do that in America, but literally if you would call waiter, I guess you could say that. You would say, Herr Ober bitte. So, Herr Ober, assuming it's a man, is Mr. Waiter. So, Ober is that. It doesn't quite work with women, though. If you want to call a female waitress, you would just basically probably raise your hand. I don't know any word that you would call out. I think that shows very clearly that traditionally a waiter is male occupation, or used to be very much a male occupation in Austria. It's not that we never had female waiters. I was working as a waitress when I was young, and this is not uncommon, but still, apparently, traditionally, this was a male job. And then, if the waiter asks you when you sit down, what would you like to drink? It's a very short way of saying it is zu trinken, or zu trinken bitte. You would probably say bitte. So to drink, please, literally. But it's short for what would you like to drink. And then the last one of those phrases, if you are being asked if you want to pay cash or card, you would say in bar oder mit Karte. By the way, in Austria, it is very possible that a few restaurants will actually not accept card. It's not a lot of places, but they do exist. Generally, cards are accepted very well. Mostly Visa and MasterCard, they're accepted everywhere, but with like card terminals, they will usually take also American Express and Diners Clubs, but not that much, those latter two. There is really some restaurants and other places where they will not accept card. Okay, good. So cash or card would be, in bar oder mit Karte. In bar oder mit Karte. So, that was the restaurant episode. As always, please, you can go to bettergerman.info /53 to find the show notes, or you find them wherever you're looking at the podcast. You also find the link there for the PDF download. And then there will be a second part of this episode, or there will be another episode that has something to do with restaurant, and that will be episode 57, which is going to come out in January of 26. And in this episode, we will practice these words, and we will have a little bit of a conversation as well. By the way, what I wanted to say, I'm deep in coursework. I'm deep in the curriculum work for the next course that is coming up, and this is coming up depending on when you are going to listen to this, but this is the first time I'm starting a program called Get Talking, German for Beginners and Restarters. It's not the first time, like most of the things that are in there I have taught many, many times, but I've talked to you or to many of you to find out what is exactly what you need. What are you running into? What type of course would you like to have? What type of course do you need? And put this together accordingly. And this is a course that is going to take you when you're a beginner or have only learned a little bit or even learned more, but you haven't actually managed to get talking. Then this course is for you, and it will teach you everything you need, but not more at this point in time, so you can actually start speaking German. As I said, I'm kind of in the middle of doing this. That's what I'm doing when I'm not recording podcasts or teaching in the moment. So in that course, there will be a bigger version of this word list and example sentences. You will have more words and more sentences, and you will have a dialogue. There's a dialogue in there, and you will actually act out dialogues. That's one of the things that is going to be in that course. This episode is going to be released somewhere around the middle of December, so it's not going to be very far away. The course is going to launch end of January. Okay, cool. If you're interested in the course, you can see when the next time is open. We are starting the program only at certain times. You can go to bettergerman.info/course. So, in the next episode is about how to stay motivated when you learn German or how not to get discouraged. Sometimes I've seen students, not so much honestly when they were with me, but coming to me and they had started to be very discouraged. And so we're going to look at what are some of the things that you can do to make sure that you're not getting discouraged. I'm not probably going into all of the things that could happen, but I'm going to cover some of the main ones. Okay? So hope you're tuning in again. If you're happy, definitely just write to me at podcast@bettergerman.info and you can let me know that you like the podcast, or probably even better, just leave a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. Ciao! See you next time. Until next week. Bye-bye. Here is a story from one of my students. She came to Austria because of love, and she started learning German, and she tried learning German, and she learned German with different people. She had private teachers and private tutors that tried to help her, and she worked hard, and she didn't speak German. Then she came to me. I worked with her, and she was not a difficult student, frankly. Not at all. She was one of the easiest students I've ever had. We didn't do private lessons. She was in one of my small group programs, and after 2 months, she spoke German. That's her saying that, not me. Her name was Diana. And I'm not telling you this because I want to tell you how great of a teacher I am, but I'm telling this to you because what was wrong here was the method. It wasn't her, it wasn't the language. And most people, when they run into a problem, they think it's them or they think it's the language. And it's neither of them. Everyone can learn German, but you have to use the right method. So if you want to know what you can do to actually learn German, then join me in the free workshop, How to Actually Learn German. It's really a culmination of all the things that I'm using in my German programs and also in the podcast, by the way. Join me in the workshop. It's a live free workshop with me. I'd love to see you there. It's on Zoom, and you can find out everything about it at bettergerman.info/workshop.